So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light reflected. Whose mouth is crumbling, thick knowledge deceptive. So let's break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light reflected. Whose mouth is crumbling, thick knowledge deceptive. So let's break it down with the proper perspective. So let's break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective.
All right, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Trying to see just a little bit real quick if the sound system is working. Sounds like it is. Let me double check and make sure. So, mic check, mic check. This is a mic check. Okay. Sound like it's kind of nice and decent. So, today, what is it? It's August 3rd. We in the middle of Black August. Y'all know what Black August is? Say something in the comments if you do. Say something in the comments if you don't. Maybe I'll do another broadcast to drop a little knowledge on the history of Black August. But really today, right now, at this present time, I'm going to do just a reaction to comments. Not all the comments. I got a lot of trolls. I appreciate the trolls. Y'all trip me out sometimes. But I'm going to do a little something today with one of the more conscientious, one of the more substantive brothers that left comments on my last video. My last video, if you haven't seen it, please check that out. And I will have a link to it in the description. But my last video was about why I refused the FBA boycott. And yeah, you know, and I did my thing, so to speak. But I had a substantive response from one particular brother. A lot of trolls hit up this comment section, and you know, I mean, we all do what we do when it comes to trolls, but that's not really what I'm here to talk about. I'm trying to talk about a substantive comment. A conscientious comment. So it's a brother named, or it's a commenter named Global African 1491, and I really appreciate the back and forth that we had, but it still just gives me more reason to pause on this whole FBA boycott thing, especially now realizing at first I was under the impression that the call was for one day, and now other people are telling me, oh no, we mean this for the whole month. And I'm like, okay, well, if it's even more so than what I said in my original video, now I feel like I got to go and double down because of the comments that was made, and triple down because some people are saying it's supposed to last all month. So let me see if I can flip my screen. Okay, so you should be able to see. You should be able to see what's on the screen. If you do happen to drop in while this is live, say something in the chat and I'll see what's up with that. But so we got, hopefully you can see, you see over here to the other side. I'm trying to put these comments. So Global African 1491 said context and nuance is missing from your video. Sounds reasonable. They're not boycotting Africans, they're boycotting disrespectful Africans. Now, if this were true, I'd be like, you know something, you got me, bro. Or you got me. If this were true. Now, Global African 1491 goes on to say, also, it is not an FBA versus non-FBA. It's non-FBAs attacking FBAs. I love it when people at least make the attempt to sound reasonable. He says, there is no diaspora war for FBAs. However, non-FBAs seem to have waged war on us along with the power structure of this country. By the way, because I mentioned COINTELPRO in my last video, by the way, COINTELPRO was in operation regardless of which venomous political party was in office. Now, on that point, I agree. I agree completely. Now, again, they go on to say, I'm FBA, and I'll never disown my African blood. On this, I can appreciate your stance. I do not embrace the label FBA because I don't see the vast majority of label claimers as people who, at least in word, claim their African DNA, their African blood, their African heritage. Most of the FBAs that I encounter disavow any and all connections to their African heritage, their Africanity, their African blood. So I appreciate this brother for at least saying he'll never disown his African blood. Now he goes on to say, but I will defend my FBA lineage till the end. When the disrespect stops, we can all hug. But till then, I will be using diasporic discernment respectfully. Now, like I said, it's a substantive comment. It's much better than the trolls who's saying, kick rocks. It's much better than the trolls who are saying, well, I can't wait till I find the do not show me this button again. And I'm like, you could have easily just not watched. I didn't even, it's not like I played tricks on you with the last title. You know, the title tells you, if you FBA, the title alone tells you that you don't want to hear nothing I got to say. But you come, you listen, which I appreciate. And then you say, I'm so sorry that I'm so sad, I'm so mad that I watched this. Well, go figure. So anyhow, this exchange between me and Global African 1491. I'm gonna go through a little bit of what, you know, our exchange. It wasn't that long, but it was basically 2 exchanges. And so I go on to give my pushback. And I say, you know, the boycott itself, the boycott started over one exact position. Someone online, probably TikTok, but okay, don't quote me on the exact source. Someone online was all up in their feelings about Essence Fest. And they took this occasion to say, don't spend your money with any Africans. This is at the heart of why I said, oh, I ain't with this. I refuse the FBA boycott. I understand the idea. I understand the need. I understand the desire to stand up for yourself. And normally I am all for almost any boycott that comes down the paint. But all the other boycotts prior to this FBA thing were laser focused on the company that did somebody wrong. This FBA boycott is about everybody of an entire ethnicity or continental origin or diasporan origin. So to me, this is disingenuous. It's an attempt to sound reasonable. But as I said in the comment, the notion, the idea that not only are you mad at the Essence Fest event, and then you take it to let's not support anybody from the continent at all, as if the entire continent voted, as if the entire continent said, let's put our coins together and send somebody over there to buy Essence Fest from the white company that owns it, and then turn it into something that it's never been. So this foundational problem with logic is why I'm doing this video. Such a call is not nuance. It's not discernment. This was some angry FBA folks saying avoid all African vendors. And so Global African Night 1491 is like, no, 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 you got it wrong. We ain't against all Africans, just the nasty ones. Well, that's not what the call said. That's not what the video said. That's not what the comments say. The comments said, we gonna boycott all African vendors. The comments said, don't spend no money with no African. That's not strategy. That's not focus. That's straight xenophobia, masked as discernment. It's a pure, unadulterated call for economic division. And divided, we shall remain unempowered, disempowered, disemboweled even. So let's be serious. You can't claim there's no FBA versus non-FBA war while simultaneously pushing rhetoric that paints all Africans as disrespectful, as freeloaders every chance you get. That is a war. And let's not fool around, because we all know boycotts is a method of economic war. It is a strong one. It is a powerful one. It is one that we have used as African Americans to bring down corporate giants. And if not to entirely eliminate them, to bring them back to the table to say, look, we got that power and here's what we want. So every time, anytime we call for an economic boycott, this is serious business. It ain't no joking matter. It's a war. And since you claim an FBA, you got to claim the whole identity. It was an FBA leader, and I know y'all don't like the word leader, but it was an FBA leader who threw the first punch. And I ain't even talking about just with the Essence Fest. I'm talking about with the whole online beef. So don't come back now and act like you're just defending yourselves. You can't hide behind victimhood when you've built an entire identity around antagonizing anyone who wasn't born in Mississippi or Florida or any other state of the contiguous 48. Now, Global African 1491 continued to say, we're not boycotting Africans, just the disrespectful ones. I say, okay, then name the disrespectful ones. Because again, the call didn't say, don't spend your money with nasty Africans. It didn't say, don't spend your money with disrespectful African businesses. It said, don't spend your money with any African whatsoever. And as I explained in my other video, I give grace, I give credence, I give space for anyone that says I was mistreated by an African. I give space for anyone that says I've been disrespected by an African. But I also give pushback. Which one? Who? What was their name? What was their business? What is the address? I may ride with you if you tell me the one on 15th Street that owns such and such, they don't treat us right. Because that's what we do with the others. That's what we do with the white folks. That's what we do with the Chinese folks. That's what we do with any other business. We don't shut down in contact, connection, commerce, trade, business, relations with entire countries because one location, because one chain behaves in a certain way. So name these nasty Africans, name these nasty businesses, these disrespectful businesses. Who specifically should we be boycotting? Because like I said, the initial call and all the hoopla and all the back and forth didn't say avoid disrespectful vendors. It didn't say let's only support our allies. And I'll give you an example. The way the Black Panthers in Detroit The way they went and they shut down the one convenience store in the community where a sister was disrespected. They didn't go after all convenience stores. They didn't go after all foreign-owned businesses. They went after the one store, the one location where there was a problem. They even identified the sister who was mistreated, maltreated, disrespected. It wasn't a phantom sister. But the FBA call said, don't spend with any Africans. Full stop, period, point blank. That's not targeted accountability. That's lazy generalization at best. It's emotional tribalism at worst. Shout out to Intuitively Wise, who's joined the chat. He says, or they say, I think the Black American has put the African out the house and into the yard for their attitude. Again, sweeping generalizations. Which African? The Ghanaian, the Nigerian, the Tanzanian, the Kenyan, the South African? Which African? And so I still say, all of this beef, all of this hoopla is sponsored behind the scenes. Let me put on my conspiracy theorist hat. This is COINTELPRO tactics. You don't believe me? Look up the Tantan Network or the Tantan Group. Sometimes they, network group. Look up the Tantan people. Because they got ties. So you can't claim discernment while swinging at the entire continent, just like Intuitively Wise just did. If the issue is disrespect, call it out case by case. Otherwise, you're just painting a whole group guilty by association. Ain't that something we can't stand in the first place? That's the exact kind of bigotry African Americans have been fighting for over 400 years. You don't get to move the goalposts after the fact. If the original call was reckless, and it was, own it. There's nothing wrong with self-correcting. There's nothing wrong with saying, wait a minute. Okay, hold on, y'all got us misunderstood. Let's recalibrate. But even that is not really what Global African 1491 is doing. He's trying to, he makes it sound like he's trying to. But if you say, wait a minute, hold on, but then you double down on everything, that's just like them white folks, that's just like them racist white folks who say, well, if you was offended, I don't mean to offend, but. And Intuitively Wise says, whoever it applies. Yeah, again, blanket statements. That's why there's so much pushback online. Yes, there's still a lot. Yes, clearly there's a lot of FBAs that's knee deep in continuing their call for the boycott. But there's a whole lot of African Americans. There's a whole lot of Black people. There's a whole lot of Black Americans. There's a whole lot of Africans who live here in the West who are saying, nah, we ain't with it. We ain't with it at all. Because you don't, like I said, you don't get to move the goalposts after the fact. The original call was reckless. Own it, change it, fix it. Maybe we will slow down our disagreement with you. If you're truly about discernment, prove it. Name the names. No more blanket sweeping generalization. Context and consistency. The one thing that Global African 1491 tried to call me out about is still missing in the FBA call for the boycott. Stop trying to rewrite the boycott like it started from logic. It started from rage. It started from self-hate. It started from division, delineation. Just a big fancy word for division. Divided, conquered. Delineate, conquered. Now that was my pushback to Global African 1491's initial response. And he even comes back again, substantively. I can respect him and I appreciate him for dialoguing instead of just trolling out. And he says, all great points, brother. I would like to ask, what is xenophobic about not spending your life force, money earned, with people who refuse to respect you and your people? Great question. Again, I appreciate the angle that he takes. I appreciate the sound reasoning that he is applying, or rather, the verbiage of sound reasoning that he is applying. He says any other group of people absolutely would not stand for it, but somehow FBAs, FKA African Americans, formerly known as, no. We ain't giving up the African American label. We're expected to do so. No, we are not. We are not expected to continue spending money with anybody that doesn't treat us the way we want to be treated. But we are also not expected to burn bridges with every member of an ethnicity, of a nationality, because a particular member or some particular group of members do something. Again, I keep saying, when we boycott Starbucks, when we boycott Target, when we boycott any of these other companies, we didn't say boycott the entire industry. We didn't say don't shop at no retail company because of Target. Now hold on. Intuitively wise continues. He said, I think black people will continue to use yeah, I can't see the whole thing there. I think black people will continue to use the good African. I'm not entirely sure what that means. I think black people will continue to use the good African. Yeah, I just don't understand the wording. So if you want to, reword that or something, I would appreciate it. So again, now Global African 1491 says, concerning the boycott on the business in Detroit, and he's taking my example. The store had been treating the patrons with disrespect and in some cases violence. I myself wouldn't shop there knowing how they treat their patrons. Again, see, that's fine. That's why I brought it up. The store, not all convenience stores, not all Arab-owned stores, not all Indian-owned stores, or whatever it is. To your point concerning FBA is not boycotting any other establishment, here are some examples. Walmart, General Mills, Amazon, Target, McDonald's, and Independence Day. Independence Day is not really an establishment, but I ain't taking but so much smoke off that one. I don't recognize and I don't celebrate Independence Day myself. But let me go. This is a call back to our people on the soil to form a solid united front with ourselves. We formed a solid united front with ourselves when we boycotted Target, when we boycotted Starbucks, when we boycott Amazon, when we boycott General Mills, or so on and so forth. But again, this solid united front amongst ourselves was towards one company each time. It's towards one company where their employees did something. Whether it was a one-time occasion, whether it was a continuous exchange, it was the one company. We didn't throw shade on the entire industry. We didn't throw shade on the entire, dare I say, on the entire race of the owners. We all know all these companies, they owned by white folk. We didn't say we not spending $1 with not one other white person, white company, white business. No, we got laser focused. So this call for a united front, no, it ain't. Let me see. Intuitively wise, B18 Turner says, LOL, skip right over my comment. Okay, well, I didn't skip it. I didn't see it. Intuitively wise, yeah, like I said, I didn't. B18 Turner, I didn't see your comment. Okay, now what comes? You say skip right over my comment and then typical. Well, like I said, I didn't see a comment. Intuitively wise says the one that treats you with respect and is not abusive when they speak to you. The one that treats you with respect and is not abusive when they speak to you. Again, something is missing there. Maybe YouTube is just messing around in the chat and it's not coming through clearly. But let me say this, because part of what I said in my original video is, yes, we all have every right to say, I'm not going to patronize any business that treats me in a way I don't want to. And we all have every right to say, I'm calling on my brothers and sisters to stand with me. But again, the FBA called for boycott has not delineated a specific business. As I made mention, I got an African doctor, I got an African mechanic, so on and so forth. My African doctor has helped me out on issues where my non-African doctor couldn't resolve. My African mechanic has helped me out on issues my non-African mechanics and car shops did not. So I should boycott them because some mystery woman's hair got braided incorrectly? Please get out. But again, so Global African 1491 goes on to say, you miss a lot of context because of this internet mess. This is true. We all can miss context because of this internet mess. It's one of the reasons why I'm trying to go very slowly, very methodically over each and every point, so I can tease out the nuance and tease out the complexity. Now, even though he makes a good point, where his point falls, where his point fails, is in his example, his support. He says Tariq Nasheed is our leader. This is the point he's trying to make, because I do suggest, I do emphasize that the FBA cult movement is led by Tariq Nasheed. But he says he is not our leader. But we are glad he is one of the main voices who champion our plight. We appreciate our brother and his fight for us. Also, we don't hate anyone. You appear to be of the same generation I am, the old school. So I'm sure you are familiar with the phrase, I gotta go pick up the some books and oils from the African bookstore. FBAs are the centerpiece to cultural awareness globally, along with some of our family from the diaspora. However, we didn't know so many of our beloved family within the diaspora thought the same way about us that our oppressors do. Cry me a river. Intuitively Wise says, and you will continue to patronize him along with everyone else. Yeah, most likely, most definitely, most assuredly. I'm not giving up any good working relationship. I'm not giving up any good business transaction over a phantom. Again, when African Americans called for a boycott of Target, I participated. When African Americans called for a boycott on Walmart, I participated. I endorsed, I talked about it, etc., etc. Because that was targeted, that was specific, that was laser focused. And I had to take the suffering that came with it. Walmart was my favorite store to shop at. Good prices. Now I'm gonna have to go pay a little bit extra at another store. Target has a lot of good stuff. Now I gotta go find somewhere else to go. But I'm in it for the cause. Why? It was an African American call. It was specific, laid out grievances to those specific chains. What is the name of the African braiding shop that got all this hoopla started? We don't know. What is the name of the African business that got all this started? We don't know. It's just an African. Ah! Just like the fool that got started that got online about Essence Fest, sounding halfway effeminate, but I know I probably shouldn't say that. But complaining about fufu and dashikis at the Essence Fest. Now, Global African 1491 goes, like you, I love Africa and all Africans from the diaspora, but I won't allow them to denigrate us while they themselves are still running an operating system on the brains called oppress me, please. We're done with that. Now, I got some pushback for that, too. Concerning the African companies that mistreat FBAs, I don't have the names offhand. You ain't got them offhand. You ain't got them on hand. You ain't got them freestyle. You ain't got them, period. Point blank, full stop. I will have to yield to your point until I can call the names of those companies. Still waiting. All I have to go on are the complaints of our FBA women and their business interactions with the African hair braiding businesses they deal with. Once again, I'll say this. If we want responsible activism, even if, so let's say I'm going to concede your point. At the bare minimum, the call should have said FBA women, African American women, should stop going to African hair shops. That would have been a little bit more focused. I would still take issue with it, but that would have been a little bit more focused than men, women, hell, even children, teens, everybody in this so-called FBA versus African American community. We not supposed to be supporting any particular African at all because of the smallest group of African American women that get their hair braided. And he says, but that's all the proof I need for now. In addition to myself watching videos of African businesses disrespecting our woman and many times owning up to it. Okay. Now, again, I'm trying to concede some of your points. I definitely would not encourage anyone to continue shopping, continue doing business with companies, with stores, with storefronts, with shops that disrespect us. But that's not what's going on here. Like I said, even he admits he can't name none of them. So what would African Americans, what would we have done if somebody got online and said, y'all stop drinking coffee because I was at this coffee shop the other day and they called me the N-word? You can't swing, you can't cast your net that wide and still say you're trying to be reasonable, you're trying to have discernment. You can't cast your net that wide and not sound childish. Now, intuitively wise says, I didn't because of the black product being sold and by the persons who called for the boycott. Again, I swear something is missing in these texts. But it is what it is. So again, this is I gotta double down on saying this. I can respect Global 1491's response to me. He carefully, teased through my initial video, he carefully teased through my comment, my responses, trying to have a positive interaction. So for that, I do appreciate. Now, hold on, let me see. Secret dance moves. The black community in America have a combined income of over $2 trillion. And I swear, this is one of the most misused, misunderstood, misappropriated statistics in black history. But unfortunately, most of that money is spent outside of the community to other people, like small hats and whites. Okay, now I agree that it is unfortunate that most of our money is spent outside of our community. That's an absolute fact. And even though I still say that is one of the most misused economic quotes, it still remains fact that we do spend most of our money outside of our community. But that's also why it's so important to be careful when we call these boycotts. Because hair shops, whether for men or for women, barbershops, hair salons, etc., these are one of the very few businesses that is, or at least always has the potential to always be controlled and dominated by black people, by the black community. Now, I'm sorry, FBAs don't consider non-FBAs as part of the black community, and I just don't ride with that. The black community includes us African Americans who descend from the plantation system, the Great Maafa, because you're not going to throw the ADOS term on me. I don't ride with them either. But the black community also includes those from the Caribbean island nations and those from the continent. We all in this together, whether you like it or not. But again, so like I said, that the back and forth, the exchange that I had with Global African 1491 was at least interesting. Like I said, I'm trying to stay as reasonable, non-trollish as he, and I appreciate that. Now, I just read his second response to me, and now I'm gonna go back and just like I said, he teased through my comments. I'm gonna tease through his comments, and some of it I've already said. So let me see if I want to do this on the big screen. Yeah, I don't know if I like the big screen. Got too much clash. I'll stay just right here. So let me go back through his comments. Pull them up. I'm gonna try to pull them up, one by one. So, right, I would like to ask. So, you ask, what's xenophobic about spending your hard-earned dollars with people who refuse to respect you? Now, as I alluded to earlier, on surface, nothing's wrong. Nothing's xenophobic about that. But the problem, as I said, the problem is you never say who. Now, not you personally, Global African 1491, the FBA call, whether it came from your leader or your minions, they never say who. They never say where. They hardly even get into the specifics of what actually happened. I've seen some of the women jumping on and saying they braided my hair too tight. Are you tender-headed? Let me ask you that. And I ask because now I know you can't tell now. I used to have locks. I used to get various braided types of hairstyles. I had to go to, not had to, I went to, of course, obviously, I went to black people to get my hair done. First time, I was like mad young, but yes, it hurt every time I got my hair done. Come find out I'm tender-headed. The slightest pull on my 9 ether kink, And I'm like, oh God, that hurts. Oh, baby, just calm down. You tender-headed, that's all. I'm supposed to walk off and say, she hurt my head. Don't nobody else go to her. All right, let me stop the troll. Again, what I'm saying is you gracefully take the time to tell me you don't know the names yet. Well, I will gracefully wait for an update. But as it stands, without specificity, the FBA call for boycotting all Africans is a ploy. Nobody can build unity with that type of rhetoric, with that type of political posturing, with that type of stance. You can't build, you can't even build unity with that type of posturing amongst the African American, the Black American, the Africans, descendants of the transatlantic slave system. Because there's a lot of us coming online saying, stop the presses, slow your roll, y'all wrong. But most of us are not saying you can't boycott. Most of us are saying the way you are going about the boycott is wrong. Therefore, I'm not with your call. You can't build unity. You can't claim moral discernment if your standard is vague rumors, YouTube clips, or some unknown man or woman's complaints. Black liberation ain't never worked that way. Black liberation never moved forward on gossip or generalization. And again, I keep trying to point out the Black Panthers in Detroit example. We move case by case. And if someone actually disrespects you, call them out by name, by business, by action. Don't torch thousands of bridges and call that discernment. It's not discernment. It's scapegoating. Textbook scapegoating. Now, secret dance move. And if you are listening, since you're here, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Of course, I want you to come back as I cover this issue some more and others. But secret dance move says, for instance, the media labeled not as Black separatists, which is wrong. They were about Black empowerment, building communities from ground up by building unity, creating a real Black economy. Maybe my brain is just misfiring. There's words missing, there's thoughts missing. Maybe I got my English teacher hat on too strong, metaphorically speaking, of course. But secret dance moves, let me just go back. He said, because he initially said, the Black community in America have a combined income over $2 trillion. But unfortunately, most of that money is spent outside of the community to other people like small hats and whites. For instance, the media, labeled NOI. Yep, see, I missed it. Good thing to slow down. See how you can self-correct when you realize you done did something wrong? The media labeled the Nation of Islam as Black separatists, which is wrong. They were about Black empowerment and building communities from the ground up by building unity and creating a real Black economy. Okay, I'm with you. That's true. So again, I'm with that. The media misled people about the Nation of Islam, much the same way that the FBA are misleading people about the continent of Africa. Intuitively Wise says, I think Black Americans can only build partnerships since we are from different countries and mindsets. Now, to some extent, that might be reasonable. I know it sounds reasonable, and I'm not necessarily mad at that. I would say, as hard as it is for Black Americans themselves to get together and joint venture anything, you may have a point there. Because culture clash is a real thing. And I don't mix bones about that. I don't deny that. Now, I'm not going to say that that should be the rule, that should be the standard, that should be the expectation. Because when it really gets down to it, if we know how to be mature adults, then we know how to designate business relationships. And I'll give you an example. I'm pretty sure most people got a job, have worked somewhere. You don't got to like your coworkers, but y'all got to work together to get the job done. So again, I think Black American can only build partnerships. Can only build partnerships. I'm assuming he means can only build partnerships with other Black Americans, since we are from different countries and mindsets. Now, again, but I will say my only real pushback to that is there are already in existence examples of Black Americans being in business with continental Africans or with Caribbean island nation people, Jamaicans, Bahamians, or whatever. So again, I understand the idea, but I don't think that's the rule. I think if you are committed to a particular goal and you express yourself the right way, and I'll give you an example. And I normally don't like to bring up other people's YouTube channels, but the brother from the US, so and I think he accepts the label of FBA, but he's in either Kenya or Uganda, and like his channel was King Ganda or something like that. He's literally on the continent. He's literally doing business, and he's doing it with continental Africans. Yeah, okay, so that's just one example. Okay, well, that's more specificity than the FBA call did. But what I'm saying is, I think it's more important to make sure, if you're going to attempt to go into business with people, that the goals and the objectives of the business are all agreed on, not the geographical location of your birth. But I digress. I do appreciate the comment, though, intuitively wise. So as I continue to tease through Global African 1491's response, he said, this is a call for unity, a united front. Well, here's what I say. Stop selling this call back to unity, because it's not a call back to unity. It's a call to retreat. It's the call for delineation, as FBA loves to say. You're literally broadcasting, circle the wagons, burn the bridges. Everyone else can apply later, as long as they worship us as the centerpiece. Man, that ain't gonna never happen. This ain't no gangster mentality type ish. Bow down, lay down, or get laid down. If this ain't taking on the mindset of your oppressor, nothing is. Once you label millions of people as unworthy, less than, subpar, underneath you, in general, you going down the wrong rabbit hole. But then you do it based on hearsay. There's no unity left to build on. Now, history shows this mindset, this exclusiveness mindset, it does more to weaken people than it does to strengthen people. Anybody who's ever utilized this close the borders, they've never fared well after the fact. And Black America will be nothing but weaker for participating, activating, embracing this divide and conquer nonsense. We are not so fragile that we must shrink from the diaspora to prove we got power. We prove our power by uniting, like I said in my other one, Booker T. Washington. We can be as separate as the fingers on the hand. But then when we come together, and then when we aim straight at the real oppressors, that's my piece. That's my point. Now he goes on to defend, to attack my claim that Tariq is their leader. This is where it gets good. So here's what I'll say. Let me see if I can pull that up. Okay, so again, Tariq is not our leader. I mean, for real. It's not a coincidence that as soon as accusations of hate mongering go public, Tariq was their leader before, mainstream news organizations started to point fingers at a hate monger. Soon as that happened, Tariq said, wait a minute, I ain't y'all leader. And all of a sudden, because before the news articles, before the limelight, Tariq was the leader and everybody treated him as such. Then Tariq got back online, hey, look, I ain't y'all leader. And everybody got back online, hey, look, he ain't our leader. At first, he set the tone. At first, he started the campaigns. At first, he picked the targets. But now he's just a voice. And guess what? Like a true leader would, in true leadership fashion and in true fellowship fashion, all his followers fall in step right again. That's not independence. That's selective obedience. You cannot claim righteous anger about leadership when your every talking point is ripped from his live stream playbook. You're just copying, duplicating, imitating. Tell me this. Before Tariq was delineate a word in the black community, hell, it wasn't a word anywhere except the dictionary. Nobody was using that word. Nobody used the word tether unless they were talking about something on their phones. He ain't the leader, but you fall hook, line, and sinker for all of his verbiage. These words ain't never been used so much anywhere, let alone in the black community, until FBA's cult leader starts slinging hash. So miss me with the Tariq is not our leader. I know it behooves him to impress upon the minds so he can stay out of the limelight. But just saying you're not the leader don't make it such. He ain't about to let nobody else take over. He ain't about to let nobody else get a bigger spotlight on these so-called issues that we all should be fighting over or standing up for. Now, let me go on to say, let me see, hold on. Intuitively Wise says, is that not what some Africans from the continent say to Black America online? Okay. Now, maybe that was in reference to something I said earlier. I'm not too sure, so I don't know what you mean. Is what not what some Africans from the continent say to Black America online? Again, one, I don't necessarily know what you're talking about. Please clarify. But again, you're still, I don't know if it's intentional or what. You're still missing the point. You're saying some Africans from the continent say something about Black Americans online. Again, I never deny that there are some bad actors in this dispute, in this community, in these groups. I'm not denying that there are some Africans from the continent that have said nasty things about Black Americans. Don't act like that there's no Black Americans who have said nasty things about Africans from the continent. This is a part of my point. There's bad actors on both sides. There's hurt feelings on both sides. So I think it was Betty Shabazz that said once something along the lines of, eat the meat, spit out the bones. Take that which is good, forget the rest. Now build your you cannot build your community. You cannot build your call. You cannot build support for your cause by only looking at the negative. Again, the specificity is needed. Now, I'm all for, like, for instance, there was a continental African brother that got online on my last live and tried to correct me about my self-identifying. Now, I didn't get nasty, I didn't get rude, but that was primarily because he didn't get nasty and he didn't get rude. He was just trying to voice his opinion. I'm all for trolling. If somebody troll you up, troll them down. But again, I'm not going to say because one particular African brother or because a whole swath of African brothers say, you ain't really African, you ain't really us. Okay. Some feel like there's no connection. Some feel like there is a connection. Why am I going to bother with the ones that don't want it? There's plenty of Black Americans right here in America that don't get along with each other. You're going to make a business out of focusing on the ones that don't want to support you when you got a whole swath of ones that do want to support you. So again, I ask, what is the standard for solidarity? What is the standard for unity? Is it sincerity or is it tribalism? If a few bad businesses or a few bad business interactions, because at least with 1491, Global African 1491, his own words admit that he don't know who the people are, that he don't know who the women are. So all we can say is somebody got mad, and that's all it takes for public retribution against an entire population. That is completely, you're doing exactly what oppressors do. Not only is it divide and conquer, it is entirely the think process of oppressive people, oppressive cultures. The only difference is the target changes to now it's being draped in a skin tone. Now, if that's your diasporic discernment, you're not calling family in. You're gleefully exiling them from online clout. And once you burn a bridge, ain't nobody to build it back again. Now, let me see. Secret Dance Move says, this is how they control the newer slaves, by getting the older slaves to break them and make them comply. Every Black man who has worked in a white company will have heard, you're okay, it's the other ones we don't like. This is basically what the FBAs are doing to their Black brothers from Africa. Okay, I agree with that. So the bottom line here, the blame the many. That's the process y'all doing. That's what y'all enacting. Blame everybody. Exile anybody who's disliked. You Trumpism folk. You MAGA people. Because that's what you're doing. That's who you acting like. Stockholm syndrome is in full effect. This ain't activism. It's poor activism, misguided activism. Ain't real activism. It's not unity. It's factionalism. That's what it is. It's factionalism. Dressed up in kente cloth. No. I can't say that. I know FBA hate kente cloth. It's factionalism dressed up in Tariq Nasheed's ever-evolving merch supply. If you wanted maturity, if you wanted all African Americans to embrace this FBA identity in general, or if you wanted all African Americans to embrace this FBA boycott call, then you would have handled it differently. You would have handled the disrespect with specificity, not mob logic. Mob logic is the way of life for Yurugu. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Yurugu, Yurugu. If you wanted leadership without a cult, you'd stop repeating slogans after every Nasheed, after every Tariq Nasheed live stream. You'd start building locally. You start building locally rooted solutions. And again, the Detroit Black Panthers didn't get online and tell all of Black America or all of foundational Black America to protest all foreign-owned convenience stores. Back in the day, when that ish happened in California, nobody got online and said, boycott every Asian business. They went after that Korean store owner. But as long as the proof for a boycott is, I saw it online, this whole movement is still reeking of fraudulent activity. I would say it's a fraud dressed up in dashiki drag, but again, y'all don't like nothing African. So I'll say it's a fraud in FBA costumes, cosplaying knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, cosplaying wokeism. And the costumes are probably made in China, sold by Tariq Nasheed, of course. Now, let me see. Secret dance move. Says, right. Okay. Nothing new. That's the same thing I read last time. Okay, cool. So we good. So here's what I say. Again, I entirely disavow, I entirely refuse to participate in the FBA boycott, at least for now. Y'all want me, and I know you don't care about me. Y'all want more. If you want more African Americans to take you seriously, if you want more African Americans to not be so anti this whole FBA cult thing, it's on you to behave differently. It's on you to carry yourselves differently. State your standard. Name your targets. And at the very least, admit that as it stands now, you're just scapegoating. And you're trying to scapegoat what you think is an easy target. You're doing to the Africans, you're doing to continental Africans, and you're doing to the Black diaspora outside of the contiguous 48 of Uncle Sam's dominion what MAGA, Trump, Heritage Foundation, the Tanton Network do to the immigrants, the brown folk. And don't get it twisted, because black people is getting caught up in that stupid ass ICE raid activity as well. Foundational black Americans, Africans who are descendants of the plantation system. And don't sell that as discernment, because it's not. It's anti-black, it's anti-historical, it's anti-progress by every measure and rubric. So let me say this, because there was another comment in here. Something about, African Americans, foundational black Americans, which again is fake. But he said something about exceptionalism. Now, again, FBA is its own thing. Y'all cannot claim everything about African Americans because you keep separating yourself from everything about African Americans. But he wanted to claim this exceptionalism idea taken right from the pages of Manifest Destiny and other Urugu philosophies. He's trying to prove it with higher ground action. True leadership, true movement strength is shown by he who is willing to make peace first. So you want to get online, well, they started it. They threw the first shot. They've been talking about us. Sounding like a child. But you say you're the grown-ups. You say y'all the big dogs on the block. You say African Americans is the vanguard of everything in global culture. Well, if you that mature, if you that big bro-ish, it takes an adult. It takes a grown-up. Be the man you say you are. And extend the first olive branch. Be the people who are willing to make peace first. Don't be the people who can hold a grudge for the longest amount of time. That's a playground bully move. All that talk about we're the vanguard, we're the centerpiece. It don't mean nothing if all you doing is fighting amongst your own kind. Now, I'm sorry to tell you, they are us and we are them. And that don't change no matter how much jumping up and down, no matter how much Tariq Nasheed tell you that we separate. We ain't. All that they started it energy, that's 8-year-old-ish. That's not the vanguard of Black progress. If you're that exceptional, be the first to reach across the divide, not the last one holding up decade-old slights as an excuse for new divisions. Let's see. A couple of more points I'm going to make. And I may have already even touched on it, but let's be clear. There's a false comparison. And this is, again, this goes to really why I have such an issue with FBA as a movement, as opposed to FBA as a cult. Now, let's be clear. Those historic boycotts, I said this earlier, those historic boycotts, those organizing efforts, the Black Panthers movement, the Montgomery bus boycott, the Republic of New Africa. Not enough people know about the Republic of New Africa. Everybody that wants to talk all this mess about we not African. Had we won the fight, we would have split up this country. And the new country for us was going to be called the Republic of New Africa. It was never going to be the Republic of Foundational Black Americans. It was not going to be called Black America. It was going to be called the Republic of New Africa. We were going to be called New Africans. We weren't going to be called the New Native Americans. We weren't going to be called the Aboriginal Americas. We were going to be called the Republic of New Africa. Granted, we lost that battle, but that don't change the fact that was the conscious, that was the thinking, that was because we've always known where we come from. It's this new group, and I don't know if y'all just didn't go to school or you weren't paying attention in school, because even the worst history textbooks on the market still give a glimpse of us, of the truth about who we are and where we come from. But I say all of those movements and programs that were led by African Americans fighting specific injustices, not anonymously lashing out at a whole population with a broad brush. They didn't target all whites. Even if you said, well, back then, they didn't even target all whites. They didn't target all non-blacks. They called out specific institutions for documented harm. They held power accountable where harm was clear, not where it was rumored, not where it was imagined. This whole FBA tactic of mass guilt, collective punishment, It's not just revisionist, it's the exact, absolute opposite of what worked for all our past liberation struggles and movements. And what's wild is, going back to Global African 1491, he skipped every real life example that I gave in my original video. Every specific example of Black unity. Now, again, I don't deny that you can randomly go into any shop, any African store, just like you can randomly go into any white-owned store, any Chinese-owned store, any Indian-owned store, any Arab-owned store, and encounter a nasty, rude individual. But you take your grievance up with that individual in that store, not where they came from. So in essence, coming at me like, oh, you don't understand, they've been talking about us. He was only, when you do that, you're not even listening for understanding. You're not listening for comprehension. You're just listening. You're mining for talking points. Oh, I'm going to talk about this. You just want to defend your argument. And that's the real problem. Every time someone like that, and I'm not necessarily calling out Global African 1491, I'm talking about the people hyped up in this FBA movement that get online and spew all this nonsense. But every time someone like that brings up, because every time someone who does what I do, provide real examples about solidarity, my West African dentist, the Liberian mechanic, Haitian restaurants, Caribbean kinfolk, Jamaican restaurants. Y'all want to erase all of that. Yeah, but such and such. I swear it's like FBA online cult, FBA discourse. Y'all hunt for negative outliers. One bad experience with a hair braider. One bad experience with some fufu. One bad experience with Essence Fest. And now everybody is guilty. Again, that is not discernment. That is not maturity. That is not sobriety. It's narrative fishing. It's willful blindness. It's divide and conquer, us versus them. That's all it is. And there ain't no, like, what was it? Flavor Flav. So there ain't no future in your front, and y'all not building a legacy. If you're really trying to claim the best of African American tradition, and I do mean African American, then you have to listen to each other's lived experiences, not just the algorithmic outrage that you can find online. Otherwise, you're just confirming the worst stereotypes about echo chambers and cult behavior. Again, I don't deny that there have been some, that there will always be some non-African Americans that don't like African Americans. And you better not try to deny that there will always be some African Americans that don't like non-African Americans. That's just life. That's just what it is. Intuitively Wise says, I thought it included all foreign businesses. The FBA call did. Like I said, I opened this by saying I appreciate Global African 1491's responses to me, but his defense of the boycott call is, I don't want to say it's disingenuous because I don't know what's in his mind, but it's still in error. Because the fact of the matter is, they called for a boycott of everything. All foreign businesses, all African businesses. Now, maybe maybe there's a play on the word foreign, But they definitely said, don't spend your money with no African. So, as I was saying, when you play into these, if all you ever do is give credence to the pocket that don't like you, especially when it's in your own community, you're just confirming the worst stereotypes about echo chambers and cult behavior. You turn every outlier into the rule. Then you're ignoring the real, you're ignoring the lived evidence of unity. And it's that that actually moves us forward. And I want to say this. For everybody so angry that Essence Fest finally included some African culture, as if you ain't African. How many years has Essence Fest been in effect? I don't know. I tried to look it up. I don't have the facts at me. Just like Global African 49 didn't have it offhand. It's like something like 30 years, 35 years. So for 30 years, for 35 years, the Essence Fest has attached itself to blackness and has only catered to one manifestation of blackness. I'm sorry, I ain't riding with that. Bottom line, if FBA wants to be exceptional, then they need to start by exceptionalism, by uniting, by trying to unite, by listening, by trying to listen, by leading by example. Otherwise, ain't no way you can claim the mantle of the vanguard when it's just tribalism and Tariq Nasheed packaging. Now say all of that, and I'm going to end with this last little piece. Because I am 100% against the FBA movement. And you can get on here and you can comment, well, screw you, well, kick rocks, well, go support. Your trolling is not going to change my mind. And I know I'm not going to change your mind. But what I will say this, there was a point where Malcolm X and Martin Luther King recognized that they were not going to change each other's mind. But they recognized that they both truly had a vested interest in the advancement of Black people. Now, mind you, neither of them wanted to delineate. So when they worked on Black issues, they didn't designate just the Black Americans. And in that frame of reference, I'm going to say, in the spirit of truce, in the spirit of peaceful accord, let's see, intuitively wise says, I don't think you understand. You are in America, and that's what American support. Well, yeah, again, I don't understand. I don't understand what you mean. Please feel free to reword it in another way. I know I'm in America. And what is what American support? I don't understand it. I, dare I say I may end up disagreeing with you, but if you want to just restate that, then please do so. But in the spirit of truce and peaceful accord, because in all actuality, I used to say something like, well, we all know the enemy. We don't all know the enemy. FBA has really come to the forefront to show and manifest they don't know who the enemy is. But outside of that blind spot of theirs, we all know who the enemy is, and we know that the enemy loves to see us fighting. So just as Malcolm X and Martin Luther King said, we need to agree to disagree. I'm going to say that, and I'm maybe go a little bit further. We need to agree to disagree, and we need to agree to disengage. I am not at all mad that FBA people get on my comments and say, I'm not going to follow your page anymore. I don't want you to. If you're wrapped up in that self-hate cultism that deep, it's nothing for us to talk about. So for me, this last part, this disengagement, this is critical. I have, in all honesty, even though I entirely disagree with you, I don't have a problem with you claiming ADOS. I don't have a problem with you claiming FBA. I don't even have a problem with you trying to act like you the real Indians. I'ma still make fun of you. I'ma still call you pretendians. But you can jump on the bandwagon anywhere you want to on the spectrum of I identify as and catch the hint. What we really need is complete disengagement. Since y'all want to do your own thing, since y'all want to do your own thing, since y'all want to be your own thing, go do it. Go be it. But stop sticking your nose into the affairs of the rest of us. We claim African American. We claim Black American. Some of us, like me, we claim African. Asterisks in the West. So like I mentioned earlier, some of us might even claim New African. Some of us might actually even claim New African. So again, I give a shout out to the Republic of New Africa, them black soldiers, them black brothers put their lives on the line for that secessionist movement. Probably shouldn't have said that. Probably shouldn't use that word. But anywho, back to the topic at hand. I am genuinely invested in ending the diaspora wars. I swear to you, I am. But it can only happen if we agree to some kind of truth. So, y'all get to claim whatever you want. Go have your disagreements between your own new identity camps. Because in truth, FBA is also fighting ADOS, and ADOS is also fighting FBA, and FBA is also fighting the pretendians, and the pretendians are also fighting the ADOS. Go over there and have y'all fights and stay out of our affairs. Stop meddling in the affairs of us Africans, whether we be the Africans who claim Africa, or the Africans who say Black American, or the Africans who say descendants of the Ma'afa. We're the African Americans using that label since like the 1700s. Shut up about Jesse Jackson. It didn't start with him. Because that's another thing. You hear a soundbite and swear it's gospel. You don't do any investigation of your own. We have been claiming Africa as our homeland, as our identity since we got off the boats. You guys have a fight with Uncle Sam. We too have a fight with Uncle Sam. But y'all fight with Uncle Sam is over reservations. That's not our fight. We have a fight with Uncle Sam over plantations. Now, we both have a fight with Uncle Sam over this thing called reparations. But stop getting even that twisted. Reparations We don't own the word. We don't own the concept. Y'all doing what Israelis do. Every time they hear something that they don't like, you're an anti-Semite. They ain't the only Semites. There are nations, there are cultures all across this planet that want, that need, that deserve reparations from America, from England, from Germany, from Portugal, Spain, and many other European nations. We don't own the word reparations. We don't own the concept. We don't own the legal battle. Again, we have a fight with Uncle Sam about plantations. Y'all can go get your reparations over your reservations based claim however you see fit. We shall do the same. We don't have to tear each other down to pursue our separate but equal goals. Just like, except in rare cases, Chinese folk don't talk about Indian affairs. Arabs don't talk about Korean affairs. We literally are, at this point, we are two separate tribes. We are two separate nations. We are two separate communities, whichever term you prefer. We are two separate lineages, whichever term you prefer. Hell, if the Bloods and Crips can call a truce, so can we. So instead of the continuous bickering, we need our own separate corners. We need to cease and desist from the online beefing. Why? Because we're doing the enemy's job for them. We're going to continue wrapping ourselves, we, African Americans, descendants of the Ma'afa, we're going to continue to wrap ourselves in the red, the black, the green. We're going to continue embracing our continental African brethren, our heritage, our political ties. We're going to continue the connections we have with the Caribbean and Afro-Latinos and African Mexicans and Africans in Canada and so on and so forth. You guys are free to embrace the Uncle Sam system in whatever ways float your boats. That's the truth we need to come to. Because ain't no African American in their right mind gonna join the FBAs. Operative phrase, right mind. Any of y'all that do, something wrong with you, that's my position. And just like you're not going to stop saying, something's wrong with me, I'm not going to stop saying, something's wrong with you. But if we can agree to disagree and disengage, there'll be a lot more peace. Since, you're FBA and you ain't got nothing to do with Africa, then by all means, don't support Africa. Don't support African businesses. But don't jump into African American affairs. Don't jump into African American comment sections and YouTube streams and TikTok platforms and all that and try to convert us. We don't want nothing to do with y'all. Now, again, let me slow my mind down so I can see if I can understand. I can see if I can grasp what Secret Dance Move is saying. Because Secret Dance Move says, now, I agree with this is basically what the FBAs are doing to their black brothers from Africa, the separating. But then, then intuitively wise, that's what it is. It says, I don't think you understand. You are in America, and that's what Americans support. Again, what is what Americans support? So if you are African, you are a foreign agent if you're not American. No, absolutely not. First off, I take issue with foreign agent. Here you go, using CIA terminology, but then want to swear you ain't got nothing to do with the COINTELPRO stuff. You are an agent. Look, I'm not even gonna go there. You can be an African, you can come over here, you can get citizenship. Now you're an American. Yes, this means now you are technically an African American. So doesn't that mean we need a new label? No, no. I heard that argument too. This is why I say we do need to disengage. Because if you want to go down that path, you want to chase reparations for the black people who descend from the plantations through Uncle Sam. That requires legislation. That requires laws. Uncle Sam already knows, and it's already been produced, that when and if they ever do decide to do something like that, they already have a specific definition of African American so that it would only apply to those of us who descend from the plantation. You don't need a new word, you need to follow the law. You just write it into the documentation. For the purposes of this proclamation, an African American is deemed as such, ... Bam, done. Same way they do for handicapped people when they write up legislation to protect their rights. Same way they do for other civil rights laws. They define who they're talking about. Nobody needed a new term until Tariq Nasheed said we need a new term. Until Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore said we need a new term. And they supposed to be the geniuses that understand all this legalese stuff. And it's plain and simple in the legalese stuff. You don't need it. Let me calm down. Let me slow it down. Again, I appreciate anybody and everybody that joined in. I appreciate Secret Dance Move. I appreciate Intuitively Wise for joining, for listening, for commenting and having a conversation with me and in the chat group. Please hit the like button. Please share this. Because again, I know FBA ain't gonna ever really agree with me, but share this, because at least at the end here, when I say let's have a truce, when I say let's agree to disagree and disengage, maybe they'll catch that part of the message and say, you know something, you're right. We need to disengage. Because African Americans don't want to hear none of that mess. But again, this is Shabazz with the proper perspective. Appreciate you joining, listening. Hit the like button. Share, subscribe. That's what they say. Like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on the next. One. Hold on. Okay, so hold on. Intuitively Wise came back and said, I understand what you're saying, but how can you enter America and set up Africa in another country? How can you enter America and set up Africa in another country? Okay. Do you not realize that the entire planet of business, trade, and commerce is now so intermixed and interconnected? Countries and continents are doing business with each other. Governments are doing business with each other. So, if an African leaves the continent, if a Ghanaian, a Nigerian, an Egyptian, a Moroccan comes to America and open up a business and take some of the proceeds from their business and they send it back home to family members, that right off top, that is how you can enter America and set up Africa in another country. If an American, black, white, or otherwise, if a black American, if an Asian American, if an Italian American leaves America and goes to any other particular country, Since this whole thing it is revolving around ethnicities, so let's say the Italian American goes back to Italy and opens up a company. Let's say the Asian American goes back to one of the Asian countries that he or she is from. Let's say the Black American goes back to an African country and sets up a business over there. By international rules, laws, and politics, whatever money you make in that other country, technically, in some way, you're gonna get taxed twice. You're generating revenue in that country. So that country's tax laws will apply to you. Because you are a citizen of this country's tax laws, revenue laws apply to you. So both governments will have their hands in your pockets. Therefore, both countries will be benefiting from setting up countries in countries you didn't come from. So that is how you can enter America or any other country. You can set up your home country for business. You can prop up, you can assist, you can help. There are Africans in America, there are Jamaicans in America, so on and so forth. There are Asians in America. They send money back to their home country for multiple purposes. Some send just to help family members survive and keep their heads above water. Some send so that family members can open up businesses. I just watched another YouTube channel of an African American, an FBA, living in Ghana, has 2 or 3 businesses in America. He's living in Ghana. He's collecting coins in America. He's setting up. He's setting up America while entering Africa. It's a two-way street. There's all kind of ways to open up businesses in other countries. And there's all kind of reasons to open up businesses in other countries. Hell, the amount of money it takes to open up many businesses in America, the economy, that's why the economy specialists, the economic professionals, that's why they say that reparations is so important, because of the wealth gap. And without that missing wealth, without that access to capital that we got cheated out of, we may never be able to catch up. We may never be able to open up the businesses that we could if that wealth gap wasn't there. So I say that to say the amount of money it takes to open up a business in America is quite often astronomically high in comparison to the amount of money it would take to open up that same or similar business in another country, especially a global South country. So you can go to a global South country, open up a business. Now you're earning money in 2 different nations. And again, so they should come to America with appreciation instead of disdain. Again, intuitively wise. This is why I say disengagement. All you're going to do is continue to harp on the negative ones. You cannot reasonably tell me that every African immigrant that has come to this country is hell-bent on disrespecting Black Americans. Yes, there are some out there. I ain't trying to cuss. F them. I'm not talking about them. I'm not saying support them. I'm saying get with the like-minded and keep it moving. Okay. Now, for real, I'm kind of finished because I really got the feeling anyhow, unless somebody new comes into the chat, for the most part, we're going to keep tussling around the same issue. There's no point of just, okay, yeah, I got another example of the same ass mess that I've been talking about. And that goes for me and you. You know, I've laid out a very, what I feel, what I think, what I know, reasonable argument. I've laid out a very methodical and logical position. I'm not saying that I got to change your mind. I'm just saying, if we get to the point where after all of the logical explanations have been presented, and then you just start back at the beginning as if nothing transpired, that's the end of the conversation. So again, please like, share, and subscribe so you catch my next one. We will be talking about this some more, I am pretty sure, from a different angle. I was going to do a deep dive on Essence Fest, but I really think it's pointless. But again, this is Shabazz. This is your Hotep backpacker, African-American brother named Shabazz with the proper perspective. I thank you. And I will holler at you later. Peace. Well, I'm trying to say peace.
Break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light reflection. Whose mouth is crumbling, sick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light reflection. Whose mouth is crumbling, sick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective.